Check Podcasts.
Hi, I'm Bruce Williams. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of the Greater Victoria Chamber of Commerce. That's why this is called Chamber Chats, which, as always, is coming to you from the podcasting studios here at the Czech Media Group, one of our chamber champions, in fact. I'd like to recognize, as always, that I live and work in the ancestral lands of the Lekwungen-speaking nations, known to us generally as Songhees and Esquimalt. And Chamber Chats is made possible by the support of Island Savings, a division of First West Credit Union, who are redefining what banking can do for people, for community, and for the world. This is going to be an interesting conversation today. This is something that I've only recently learned about, and we're a very inclusive organization at the Chamber. We embrace diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I was fascinated to find out that Canada has an 2SLGBTQ plus Chamber of Commerce. In other words, they deal with queer business and the issues that surround that. Joining me right now is Daryl Sherman, who is actually the co-founder as well as the CEO of the organization. Daryl, welcome.
Thank you, Bruce. It's great to be here with you.
So tell me about how this all came about. What was sort of the driving force behind creating this?
Yeah, well, the Chamber has been around for 21 years, so we're not a new organization. And I think when you start to look, the world was very different and Canada was very different 21 years ago. In terms of 2SLGBTQI plus acceptance was certainly not to the degree that it is now. And certainly as an entrepreneur, as a business, there was a lot of challenges that, entrepreneurs are facing. And so my colleague and I at the time were looking to see how can we better support our entrepreneurs in addressing some of those challenges that they've been facing. We saw a movement kind of happening in the US, so south of the border. We saw the creation of a national LGBT Chamber of Commerce, and some of the work that they were doing across the country. And I think that was kind of what spurred us on. We're like, well, if the US is doing it, we should certainly be doing something like that. And we had already seen by that time some of the movements that were happening regionally in some of the provinces, in Ontario, in Quebec, and even in BC, with the formation of some regional LGBT chambers. So we decided that then was the time to create a national organization to really support these businesses at a national level and address some of those challenges that they've been facing.
And I'll say right up front that in all of these interviews, I'm always prepared to make a mistake. And I think in doing work with DEI stuff, you are going to make mistakes, which I have. So please correct me. We're speak with another business owner in a couple of minutes here too. So what were the barriers to growth for these people, Daryl? Like what sort of, I'm going to use the word discrimination, but what barriers were put up that kept these people from prospering as they could have?
Yeah, over the years, we've done several research studies looking at kind of the landscape of the 2SLGBTQI business community, and specifically a lot of the barriers and challenges that they've been facing. And, I think we can kind of group them into two buckets, if you will. There's those that are kind of, unfortunately, we see across many kind of marginalized or underrepresented community groups. So access to capital, access to mentorship, access to international markets. So a lot of those barriers that are just truly impeding their ability to scale. And so there's that bucket, but then there's also just as you said, kind of that discrimination. And so we found that discrimination is actually happening within our business community. We know that over the past few years, many of our businesses, and actually 1 in 5, have actually hidden the fact that they had 2SLGBTQI ownership. We know that 1 in 4 have actually lost contracts or lost business because of having a queer entrepreneurs as business owners. So these are some of the challenges that we as an organization are looking to address. How do we help these businesses overcome some of those barriers to allow them to truly be focused on their business and to help their business grow?
Also joining us today is Joe McFetridge. Joe is the managing lawyer at Breakwater Law, a member of the Chamber of Commerce. Joe, how are you today?
I'm well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
So you identify as a queer-owned business, is right? And then the things that Daryl's been talking about, how often have you seen that happen, where people are discriminated against simply because of their orientation?
I see it all the time. It's a little bit more systemic in the areas that I work in. I do a lot of estate planning, queer business work, and family law. And if I had to sort of generally characterize it, I would say that queer folk experience a lot of discrimination when law that tends to be very traditional in its lens butts up against some very modern and postmodern ways that queer folk tend to arrange their affairs and their business and their families.
Now, explain that complication to me a little bit more. Like, I mean, you do it all the time. It's what you do every day, right? So frame that up for us a little bit.
Well, it's really dependent on what context we're looking at. But I do a lot of family law, and I work in lots of with lots of queer families and ethical non-monogamous families. Our family law is really oriented around a very traditional family model, and lots of queer and poly folk don't organize their families that way. And so when they come up against the courts or in the courts and they're looking for justice, there's a lot of misunderstanding about how they organize their family, and how the traditional law just doesn't apply, or doesn't apply very well to the decisions that they've chosen to make.
So that kind of means really that they have unique needs, right? And that's what you're addressing.
Yeah, they sure do. And especially in areas like estate planning, which is largely writ, what's going to happen to your stuff after you pass away. The law is really oriented around a man and a woman family model. And if that's not the way your family is organized, it can be a little bit more challenging to get some documents together that actually reflect what you'd like to happen to your family and your things after you pass away.
So I guess as an example, I would imagine there are people with estate planning who say, "Well, I'm not going to give him or her any money because they're gay. I don't support that. I don't want." Does that happen?
It has happened in the past, and thankfully, courts have been pretty willing to strike those types of clauses down as void for public policy.
I'm going to go back to Daryl
They
for
will still try, though.
Sorry, they will still try.
Yes.
Yeah, well, that's just not right. Daryl, let's come back to you. How do you create advocacy, and who do you create that advocacy with?
Yeah, we're a business organization, and so we're very much focused on how are we driving change through the power of economics. And so what we're really trying to do is to economically empower our community and help to strengthen them, and thereby helping to drive some of that social change that we've been working for, and many other organizations centered around the 2SLGBTQI community are working towards. So on the advocacy side, like I said, it is very much around showcasing the economic impact that queer businesses have on our economies, whether they're our local economies or our national economy. We've estimated that there's over 100,000 2SLGBTQI plus businesses across the country, generating $22 billion in economic impact annually, and employing over 500,000 people. So they play an important part of our economy. And so, we need to find any way that we can to make sure that they are set up for success. And so, if we go back to the fact that many of these businesses are hiding who they are and hiding the fact that they have queer ownership, they're not putting their whole selves or all of their energy into their business. And so that's what we want to try to do, is how are we helping them to be able to focus on their business, focus on growing their business. And then that way they're creating more employment, they're paying greater taxes, helping to support their local communities on a greater way. So that advocacy work that we're doing, it's all from a economics and business perspective, and we're doing that at the local level. At the local level, federal level. We're also doing that with corporations and working with corporations to understand the importance that 2SLGBTQI businesses can play in the work that they're doing.
Another couple of factors I want to bring up in this conversation are comfort and trust. We're going to do that when we come back. Our chamber chat today is with two guests talking about things in the 2SLGBTQ plus community. One is Daryl Sherman, who is the CEO of the Canadian Chamber, the 2SLGBTQ plus chamber. I have that written down, so I have to look at it. And we're going to come back to you in a second here. Joe McFetridge is with us as well, managing lawyer at Breakwater Law. Comfort and safety, Joe, when does that pop up in the dealings that you have with your clients?
I say all the time. When folk come to our office, they're looking for somebody who understands their circumstances and to whom they don't have to do a lot of emotional labor in explaining how their families are set up and what issues they face in the community, what issues they face with parenting. When they can come to somebody who just gets it because they live it, it creates an enormous degree of trust.
Yeah. Daryl, same question to you. How much do you hear from your membership about that feeling of comfort and safety in their day-to-day lives?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, a lot of what we're doing is working with businesses that that are queer owned, but also have queer employees. And what we're trying to do is make sure that both the entrepreneurs, the business owners, but also their employees feel safe to be in an environment that they know that they're welcomed and that they're accepted, and that hopefully that their customers are also making sure that they're providing that level of support to them as well. So absolutely, it's very critical.
I'll ask this of both of you. How many of you have dealt with, or sorry, how many people have you dealt with that have come to Canada from other cultures where their status and their sexuality is not recognized? In fact, it's suppressed. It's seen as almost a criminal activity. That can be a real problem in trying to start up a business, Daryl. And how often have you seen that happen?
We've seen it a lot, and unfortunately, there haven't been up until now a lot of supports that are there specifically for newcomers that do identify as queer. And so one of the programs that we've been building out over the last year is to address this very issue, is to provide a level of support and services that can help these newcomers that are 2SLGBTQI, help them establish themselves as entrepreneurs. And so that might be, helping to provide business development, capacity building, but also just connections and creating a sense of a place where they can be who they are and feel comfortable in who they are. So, it's absolutely a critical issue that we need to address. And I'm hoping that through the work that the Chamber is going to be doing over the next few years will really help address this.
Yeah. Is that present in your work, Joe? Do you see much of that?
Yeah, I see a little bit of it here and there. People who are new to Canada or experiencing some shame or difficulty in acknowledging their queerness or having bad experiences of their queerness in community. And similar to the previous answer, what we try to do is we try to build connections with other people. If we're dealing with business clients, we try to connect them with other queer business owners in our community. And that goes a really long way toward making them feel that their queerness is accepted and celebrated and not something that they need to hide.
Yeah. It must be a great learning experience for you to go through that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Always.
And Daryl, I'll ask the same thing of you. What sort of a learning experience? How has that helped the Chamber move forward in what they do?
It's been an important piece. I think, we're constantly evolving. And, when we formed 21 years ago, we were very focused on, even as our name back then suggested, gay and lesbian entrepreneurs. But we've continued to evolve and understand that we are more than just, than just the LGBT community or the 2S LGBT community. There's so much intersectionality that plays a part here. And I think when we start to look at newcomers and having a sense of some of the unique barriers that they face, and then coupling that with the fact that they are queer, there's a whole breadth of new barriers that these individuals are facing. And so that's why, again, it's what it's helped us do is relook at the programs that we've been delivering over the years, continue to refine them, continue to make sure that they are accessible to everyone within the community, and that we are supportive of the entire 2SLGBTQI community and not just a segment of.
I'll stick with you again for just a second here. You have specific programs to overcome barriers to entrepreneurialism that are stopping people from growing, kind of like we referred to earlier. But can you explain those specific programs?
We do, and a lot of the work that we've been doing over the last year has been a project that we call the 2SLGBTQI plus entrepreneurship program. And it's actually a $25 million commitment from the federal government to support entrepreneurs that are queer, helping them to start and scale up their businesses and address these barriers that you were talking about. So there's activities that we're rolling out, like, I talked about some of those barriers at the start of the session here, looking at how are they accessing international markets, how are they accessing mentorship, some of those barriers that, we can, through this program, through this funding, we can help address. Another key piece of the work that we're doing through this program is actually helping to strengthen the ecosystem across the country. So making sure that there's support networks coast to coast to coast that can really help these businesses at the local and regional level. So we're providing funding to many regional organizations to help to continue to develop and deliver supports at that local level.
Joe, with the people you're working with, those on the business side, I know you're mostly family law, but when they are trying to establish a business and these barriers are up for them, how frustrating is that? Just to get personal for a second, that must be very frustrating.
It's absolutely frustrating. It can be heartbreaking at times. We take the approach where we really do try to connect them with other providers who are also queer, so they can have an experience of not being othered. So queer accountants, queer investment advisors, queer insurance folk. It's a good antidote.
Yeah, very much so. We're going to take another quick break here, but I just want to sort of ask both of you a question. What's the most rewarding thing about the work that you do? We're going to talk about that next. Chamber Chats today, we're chatting with a couple of people about the world of queer business. Daryl Sherman is and I'm sorry, I have to read the title to get it right here, is the CEO of the 2SLGBTQ+ Chamber, which stands for Two-Spirit, Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, Trans, Queer, Questioning, Intersex, and more. And Joe McFetridge is the managing lawyer at Breakwater Law here in Victoria. So what's the most rewarding thing, Joe, when you're working with these family law, but family-based things, when these folks are overcoming challenges with your assistance? Without the question being too simple, what is the most rewarding part of what you do?
Well, in all of the areas that I practice, including business law or estate planning or family, all of that, it's all kind of the same. It's making connections with people and making them feel like they're within family and they're understood, and they don't have to spend time explaining the situation to me, because I just get it. And it's nice to be in a position where you can offer that kind of comfort and normalcy to somebody who, from personal experience, navigates the world feeling very othered and discriminated against. So it's a safe space, and it feels good to be able to provide that to people and to give them holistic advice and support among their many endeavors. And so you really get to know people in their family situations and their business situations. I'll often be somebody's lawyer for all of the things. And it feels really great to be able to serve another person in such a holistic way.
Yeah, good for you. You must be proud of that work. Daryl Sherman, same thing. You and I live in the chamber world every single day, but what's the reward to you in what you do?
I think it is really seeing these businesses being able to strengthen and to grow. One of the core programs that we run is what we call supplier diversity. It's really connecting our LGBT-owned businesses with corporate Canada and governments that are actively looking to diversify their supply chain. And it's really about helping to create business opportunities for these businesses. And so to see those connections that are happening between our LGBT-owned businesses and corporations, and seeing them win contracts and seeing them be able to grow their business, that is what we're here to do. And that is what is kind of moves me. But, I think everything that we do is creating impact, and I remember one story where we had a young Black gay male who was looking to start his business. And he sat down with us after kind of going through some of our programming, and he was in tears, and he said, I never thought as a Black gay male I'd be able to run my own business and have my own business. And, it's like, those are the things that, we're trying to help these people overcome some of those barriers, those challenges that they face, and those barriers that they have in their own sense, that they'll never be able to create this. That is what we're trying to change. We're trying to change that narrative that no matter who you are, you can create a business, you can be successful, and you can ultimately help to grow the national economy. Bringing it back to business, right?
Yeah. The big window in my office that faces the outside has a rainbow flag hanging in it, has a pride flag in it, because we make that message very clear. The queer business owners are safe with us, they are welcome with us, and we want to engage with them all the time. Daryl, you do something called being rainbow registered. What's that?
Yeah, and it's very much what you just spoke about, Bruce. It is recognizing those companies, those businesses that have proven and demonstrated 2SLGBTQI inclusive policies and practices. So we have assessors that will work with these organizations, these businesses, that will review their kind of internal policies, their practices, look at what they're doing within the community, what they're doing within their workplace to make sure that they truly are an inclusive organization. And then they get accredited. And that basically that showcases to both internally and externally that these organizations are ones that are welcoming, that are create a safe space for employees and customers alike, and really helping to continue to advance 2SLGBTQI opportunities and rights.
Joe, you work in the legal and justice system all the time, and you see some things that could probably be done a little bit better. What might they be?
How much time have you got?
So we'll have to do a whole separate one about that then.
There's a lot that could be improved. I think the law often struggles to progress as fast as the society does, and so I have a lot of compassion and understanding. But there's still huge gaping gaps of areas where the law just doesn't really take into account the way that queer people live and navigate the world. And there's really too many to list. But I think that lawmakers, judges, and people active in the judicial system have done a great job in really rehauling their lenses and looking a little bit more at how they could be making their laws and their systems more accessible to queer folk. So I've got lots of positive things to say, but we're still working on all of it.
Well, you're there as a champion for them, that's for sure, and so is the Chamber. Thank you both for your time today. Joe McFetridge is the managing lawyer at Breakwater Law here in Victoria, and Daryl Sherman is the co-founder and the CEO of the Canadian 2SLGBTQ plus Chamber. And it's based in Ontario, but it serves all of Canada. Thank you both for what you do. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Bruce.
Thank you.
I'm Bruce Williams. We'll see you again for another Chamber Chat.